Okay, we are back for week 2, day 1, part 2. So we want to finish the reading and get on with the questions. So here we go. Page, I forgot where I stopped. The bottom of 85. Well, alone in his sleeping room, prepared for bed, Jonas opened his folder at last. Some of the other 12s he had noticed had been given folders, thick with printed pages. He imagined Benjamin, the scientific male in his group, beginning to read pages of rules and instructions with relish. He pictured Fiona smiling, her gentle smile as she bent over the list of duties and methods that she would be required to learn in the days to come. But his own folder was startling close to empty. Inside, there was only a single printed sheet, and he read it twice. Sorry. Jonas, receiver of memory. 1. Go immediately at the end of school hours each day to the annex entrance behind the House of the Old and present yourself to the attendant. 2. Go immediately to your dwelling at the conclusion of training hours each day. 3. From this moment, you are exempted from rules governing rudeness. You may ask any question of any citizen, and you will receive an answer. 4. Do not discuss your training with any other members of the community, including parents and elders. 5. From this moment, you are prohibited from dream telling. 6. Except for illness or injury unrelated to your training, do not apply for any medications. 7. You are not permitted to apply for release. And 8. You may lie. Jonas was stunned. What would happen to his friendships? His mindless hours playing ball or riding his bike along the river? Those had been happy and vital times for him. Were they to be completely taken from him now? The simple logistic instructions, where to go and when, were expected. Every 12 had to be told, of course, where and how and when to report for training. But he was a little dismayed that his schedule left no time, apparently, for recreation. So imagine that if that was you. After school, some of you all have regimented sports that you do or activities. But for the most part, you kind of do what you want to do. If you want to get on your Xbox or your PS3s or 4s or your Nintendo Switch and you want to play with other kids or people, or you go down the street or up the holler to play with someone, you do. It's your free time. But Jonas is a little perplexed at this point because there's no free time in here. The exemption from rudeness startled him. Reading it again, however, he realized that it didn't compel him to be rude. It simply allowed him the option. He was quite certain he would never take advantage of it. He was so thoroughly accustomed to courtesy within the community that the thought of asking another citizen an intimate question, of calling someone's attention to an area of awkwardness, was unnerving. The prohibition of dream telling, he thought, would not be a real problem. He dreamed so rarely that the dream telling did not come easily to him anyway, and he was glad to be excused from it. He wondered briefly, though, how to deal with it at the morning meal. What if he did dream? Should he simply tell his family unit, as he did so often anyway, that he hadn't? That would be a lie. Still, the final rule said, well, he wasn't quite ready to think about that final rule on the page. The restriction of medication unnerved him. Medication was always available to citizens, even to children, through the parents. When he had crushed his finger on the door, he had quickly, gasping into the speaker, notified his mother. and she had hastily requisitioned relief of pain medication, which had promptly been delivered to his dwelling. Almost instantly, the excruciating pain in his hand had diminished to the throb, which was now all he could recall of the experience. Rereading rule number 6, he realized that a crushed finger fell into the category of unrelated to training. So, if it ever happened again, and he was quite certain it wouldn't, he had been very careful near heavy doors since the accident, he could still receive medication. The pill he took now each morning was also unrelated to training, so he would continue to receive the pill. But he remembered uneasily what the chief elder had said about the pain. That would come with his training. She had called it indescribable. Well, Jonas swallowed hard, trying without success to imagine what such pain might be like, with no medication at all, but it was beyond his comprehension. He felt no reaction to rule number 7 at all. It had never occurred to him that under any circumstances, ever, that he might apply for release. Finally, he stilled himself to read the final rule again. He had been trained since earliest childhood, since his earliest learning of language, never to lie. It was an integral part of the learning of precise speech. Once, when he had been a 4, he had said, just prior to the midday meal at school, "I'm starving." Immediately, he had been taken aside for a brief private lesson in language precision. He was not starving, it was pointed out. He was hungry. No one in the community was starving, had ever been starving, would ever be starving. To say starving was to speak a lie. An unintentional lie, of course, but the reason for precision of language was to ensure that unintentional lies were never uttered. Did he understand that? They asked him, and he had. And he had never within his memory been tempted to lie. Asher did not lie. Lily did not lie. His parents did not lie. No one did, unless. Now Jonas had a thought that he had never had before. This new thought was frightening. What if others, adults, had, upon becoming 12, received in their instructions the same terrifying sentence? What if they had all been instructed, "You may lie"? His mind reeled. Now, empowered to ask questions of utmost rudeness and promise answers, he could conceivably, though it was almost unimaginable, ask someone, some adult, his father perhaps, "Do you lie?" But he would have no way of knowing if the answer he received were true. Now, so today you're going to finish questions 3 and 4 in your journal. And then I'm going to have you upload questions 2 and 3 to the Google Classroom for me. So you're going to finish 3 and 4 in your journal. And then your upload questions, you want to circle those, will be 2 and 3. Got them? All right. This is a weird piece of science fiction, guys. So I'll see you in a little bit. I think I'll have a bite of lunch.